Ali had a cake shop in the city of Baghdad. He wasn't rich, but he was a good man who worked hard. Ali had a jar under the floor of his shop. Every week, he put a small piece of gold into this jar. This money was for him when he was old and ill. When Ali was 50 years old, he took out the jar. There were more than 1,000 gold pieces inside. I have a lot of money now, he thought. I would like to see the world before I die. So Ali sold his shop. However, there was one problem. A jar of gold. He couldn't take it with him on the journey. Then he had an idea. He bought some olives and put them in the jar on top of the gold. Then Ali closed the jar and took it to his friend Hussein, who also had a shop. "Please, can I leave this jar of olives with you?" he asked. "Of course, my friend," said Hussein. "Leave the jar of olives with me. Put it here in my shop." Ali was away for a long time. He went to Egypt and then Syria. One day, when Ali was in Syria, Hussein's wife wanted some olives. The shop in their street was shut. "There are some olives in my shop," said Hussein. "Do you remember Ali left a jar of olives with me, but he never came back? Perhaps he's dead so we can eat his olives." Hussein went to his shop and opened the jar of olives. The olives at the top were very old and dry. He put his hand down into the jar and pulled out not an olive but a piece of gold. Then he pulled out more pieces of gold. Hussein was very surprised. He thought for a long time. In the end, he took the olives out of the jar and threw them away. Then he took the gold out of the jar and put it under the floor of his shop. To his wife he said, "Only we can't use those olives. They were too old and dry." Next, he bought new olives and put them in the jar and closed it. "Perhaps Ali will come back. He gave me a jar of olives, so I'll give him back a jar of olives." Some weeks later, Ali came back to Baghdad after 7 years. He went to Hussein and asked for his jar of olives. "Olives?" Hussein. "What olives?" "I left a jar of olives with you. You put it in your shop." "Oh yes," Hussein. "I'm sorry, I forgot. 7 years is a long time. Let's go to my shop and I'll give it to you." When Ali saw the jar of olives, he felt very, very happy. "Thank you, my friend," said Ali. "Now I want to give you something." Ali put his hand in the jar and pulled out not gold pieces but olives. He did this again and again. In the end, he said, "Where's my gold? What happened to my gold?" "Gold? What gold?" asked Hussein. "I had some gold in this jar." "My friend, you left a jar of olives with me. You said nothing about a jar of gold." "There was gold in the jar under the olives," said Ali. "Please give it back to me." "I know nothing about any gold," answered Hussein. They talked about this for some time. Then Ali said, "Let's go to the judge. He'll help me. He'll see." Ali and Hussein went to the judge. The judge asked Ali, "Did anybody see the gold in the jar?" "No," answered Ali. "Did you tell anybody about the gold in the jar?" "No." "What did you say to Hussein? What was in the jar?" "Olives," Ali said. Judge said, "You're an old man. You don't remember things very well. Nobody saw the gold. You told nobody about it, so perhaps there was no gold in the jar." Ali was very angry with the judge, so he wrote a letter to the Sultan. The Sultan was very interested in Ali's story. Now everybody in Baghdad knew about the jar of olives. But who was right, Ali or Hussein? The Sultan said to his vizier, "Let's walk in the streets tonight and listen to people. What are they saying about Ali and Hussein? That night, the Sultan and his vizier saw some children in the street. The children spoke the names of Ali and Hussein. "Those children are playing a game," said the vizier. "One boy is Ali and one is Hussein. Another boy is playing the judge." The Sultan listened to the boy judge and said, "That boy is very clever. He asks very good questions. Bring him to me tomorrow morning. Bring Ali and Hussein, the judge, the jar of olives, and 2 olive sellers too." The next day, these people came to the Sultan. "Come, boy," Sultan said. "Sit by me. Yesterday you judged Ali and Hussein in play. Now you will really do it. And you," he said to the judge, "listen to this boy and learn from him. He knows about right and wrong, good men and thieves." The boy was very afraid, but he said, "Bring me the jar of olives." Now he said to Ali, "Did you give this jar to Hussein?" "Yes," answered Ali. "Did Ali give this jar to you?" he asked Hussein. "Yes," answered Hussein. The boy pulled out some olives from the jar and ate them. Then he said to Hussein, "These olives are good. Did you eat any?" "No," said Hussein. "I didn't open the jar when Ali was away from Baghdad." The boy gave some olives to the 2 olive sellers. "Try these olives," he said. "They're 7 years old, but they're very good." 7 years old, cried the olive sellers. "These olives aren't 7 years old. No olive is good after 3 years. It loses its color. These olives are this year's olives." But Hussein says these olives were in the jar for 7 years. The boy judge. Everybody looked at Hussein. Hussein's face turned white. "I took the gold," he said. "I'm sorry, Ali." So Hussein lost his good name. Ali had his gold again but lost a friend. The boy stayed with the Sultan and later became a famous judge.